Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Happy Friday and welcome to the first day of our challenge. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about self-love. I love it so much. So, first I want to get into how I define self-love. And really, for me, it started a couple years ago. It's been a long time in the making that I've had this dream of sharing, what I've learned. Of course, I've learned a lot more on the way. 2 years ago, I was sitting out in the yard. I had just finished reading The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. He writes the Four Agreements as well. And in that book, I really got a grasp on what love actually is. And so then I started taking that definition of love and aiming it at myself. And that's where things got really hairy for me. Like, what part of the self do we love? Do we love the part of ourself that lies, cheats, and steals, that does destructive things? And that was really where it got super juicy, and there was all kinds of blocks, because I hadn't integrated those destructive parts of myself yet. So, yeah, self-love. One of the most common things that I see whenever talking to people about self-love, it's like such a gray definition. And oftentimes, self-care is what we call self-love. So, taking time for yourself, going out and getting your hair done, or getting a massage, getting good food, exercise. And not to say that all of those things aren't important, but for me, whenever I was in really dark, like self-hating, self-loathing times, anything self-care felt wrong. I felt guilty doing it. It wasn't pleasurable. So it's like, if you're doing these things to love yourself and then feeling guilty while you're doing it, it's not really an act of self-love, I mean, even though it kind of still is, for me, it needed that I needed to love myself and feel like I deserved these things, deserved this time. I was worthy of getting my hair done or my nails done, worthy of looking good, worthy of eating right. So for me, self-love is very different than self-care. They do go hand in hand, because when you love something, you care for it, right? So that's the trajectory here that we're going on. So to me, love is trust, kindness, respect, and safety. You need all of those things to actually have love. Like, you can't have love if you don't have trust. You can't have love if there's not kindness. And not to say that you have to be like nice all the time. Kindness and nice are different. Kindness is, being real and, just treating yourself or others in a kind way. Like, you can have a conflict and still be kind in it. You know what I mean? Then safety. Like, if you don't feel safe, love can't really be there. It's like you are in fight or flight, survival mode, and everything's all shaking up, and love is not, like, it doesn't work in that situation. And then respect. Respect is a big one, and I spent a lot of time on respect. Respect is like seeing the inherent value in either yourself or something else. Meaning, regardless of anything else, you see the value in this thing. And so you listen to it and you nurture it. So these are the 4 core things that, in my opinion, make love possible. And without them, love is just not safe to be there. You know, it can't exist without these things. So whenever we are turning this at ourselves, we have to look at, are we able to trust ourselves? And really, that's where I started. I got really honest with myself about life. You know, there was a lot of things, like, I would go to bed every night, like, so grateful that for my house, my job, my family, you know, my health. And at the same time, internally, just feeling like so wobbly, like not okay. I didn't even like have the words to describe it, and it's like you see you have all these things that, you know, are supposed to make you happy, and they do, you know, but the truth of it is you can't be truly happy until you're happy on your own. And then it kind of overflows. We'll get to that. But yeah, like if you're honest with yourself, like, don't minimize whatever's going on just because you feel like it should be different, because these are all the things, you know, that are normally making people happy or whatever. Because that's not, you can't get anywhere. You can't grow if you're just lying to yourself and staying in situations where you're not happy. And I'm not saying that you have to, like, leave the situation, because, you know, that may not be the thing. It's like you're unhappy inside, and that's why you're not happy really anywhere. That was my experience. So getting honest with myself and, like, admitting that I wasn't happy, and that was really hard. I remember when I told my husband that, like, he took it so personal, and it was like it was his fault that I wasn't happy, you know. But it wasn't that way at all. It was all an inside job for me. And I would have never gotten there had I just pretended to be okay. You know, keep pretending, put this smile on whenever you feel like everything is just burning up inside, you know. And there were signs, like, I was really angry all of the time. I yelled a lot. I was drinking a lot. And there was a lot of destructive behavior. And sometimes we don't want to look at that. That's another thing to get real honest about. Like, if it happens, if it's alive in you, then it's real. Like, if you don't feel good, if you feel anxious, if you feel angry, if you feel sad, it's real. Like, people will tell you, oh, it's okay, or you tell yourself, it's not really there, it'll go away, or whatever it is. Like, getting honest with it and like accepting that this is what I'm feeling right now, even though I have da 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 da. Don't minimize it. Don't gaslight yourself. Be honest with yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody else as long as you're honest with yourself. Kindness. This is a big one. This was probably right up there with getting honest with myself, was really getting aware of how I treat myself on a daily basis, minute by minute. Like, it was really bad. Like, the way I spoke to myself, like, it was horrible. Like, if I made a mistake, it was, you're a piece of shit. Like, every time I would react to my kids, like, I mean, that one was the worst because it really is bad, but an awful mother I thought I was. And, I've made some interesting choices, but, we live and learn. Anyway, how do you talk to yourself? Nobody else is listening. It's in your head. You make a mistake. What's going on in here? Are you compassionate towards yourself, or are you your own worst enemy? For me, I was my worst enemy. Like, so brutal. Like, never in a million years would I ever think to speak to anyone else like this. So really getting aware of that. Whenever you're thinking your thoughts, put awareness on them. Like, you're not your thoughts. And that, we'll get there too. But just being aware of the ones that come in. Because these thoughts, whenever we're stuck in this cycle, they come from, earlier in life. If you've had super critical parents, or super judgy parents, or whatever kind of parents you had, or, teachers, any adults, other kids, whatever. Like, they tell you things, and then you kind of take that in because you're a child and you don't know how not to yet. And then that's the stuff that gets repeated in your head. Like, oh, you fucked this up again. Why are you such an idiot? Like, oh, you're such a dumbass. Like, these are all the things that were playing in my head. So getting aware of that. Awareness is the first step for all of this, is being aware of it and accepting that it is. And then we can start to shift to change. The awareness is like 90% of the work, because most people go through life and they just have their thoughts going and are controlled by their thoughts. But you can take the driver's seat. It does take time, and it takes effort, it takes awareness. But as you become aware of these thoughts, and this is what I would do, I'd be at work and I would make a mistake and I'd be like, oh my God, you're such a dumbass. And I'd put up a stop sign in my head and be like, no, you just made a mistake. So becoming aware of where we are, being not kind to ourselves. When are we calling ourselves names? When are we judging ourselves? When are we criticizing ourselves? Becoming aware of that. And then, once you're aware of it, you can start to question, hey, is this actually true? Other people make mistakes all the time. You know why? Because we're humans. It's part of us. And mistakes, I've learned, are just growing opportunities. So there's a lot of like little shifts you can do with your words too. Like, instead of saying I fucked up, it's like, oh, I got a chance to learn something, What did you learn? So that is kindness. So we've done trust and kindness, being honest with yourself, And that one too is also like keeping your word to yourself. If you say you're gonna do something and then you're like, I'm not gonna do it, like, be careful with that one, because you lose trust with yourself if you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then you don't all the time. We got trust and kindness, and then we have respect. And respect, I feel, really comes into play, especially in regards to emotions. That's where I get the most self-respect internally, is, and you know, my whole life I shut down any emotion that was negative. So like if I was feeling sad, I didn't feel like I could cry, especially in front of people. Anger, like I would just you know, push it down, drink it away. I just couldn't handle those emotions. Like literally it feels like if you do it, you might die, because somewhere along the way, it wasn't okay for you to feel those things. It affected the safety of your situation. You know, if you're gonna cry, I'm gonna give you something to cry about, right? So I couldn't, maybe you too, we couldn't feel those things. It wasn't safe. So these emotions though, they're in all of us, and there's nothing that anybody can do to like, poof, they're gone. We don't have emotions anymore. They are part of being a human. And like people my age and I think older, like my husband is a perfect example. He does not believe in emotions. And I didn't either. Like I can't judge. I'm not judging. Like we were raised this way. We were conditioned to believe that these emotions are negative and literally will kill us or put us in an unsafe situation, you know? And so our bodies are basically wired to like not accept these emotions. However, we're humans and they are a part of us. There is like hard fact science that says this. And you know, they're not going to kill you. And we're not in that situation anymore where we're not safe to have them. But our body still feels like it's going to die. So I understand why people push them down. However, respect is seeing the inherent value in something. And so these emotions have value. They have so much value. Like they tell you, anger tells you when you're being mistreated, when you're abandoning yourself. You know, it shows you a place where you judge yourself and maybe need to go in and give a little compassion, you know. Sadness shows where like it's like a love, the opposite, not the opposite of love, but like you want love and it's not there. It's kind of like grief. Grief is love with nowhere to go. Grief is like all kinds of emotions. That's where I learned all my emotions, was grieving. But all these emotions, they have a value. They have a purpose. They're chemical things going on in your body, and it's not random. So taking them, and instead of judging, criticizing, trying to change, trying to make go away, we can respect them and value them and invite them to be, because they already are. You can't change that. And getting the knowledge that you can get out of them, like, oh, you know, I'm being mistreated. It's time to set a boundary, or whatever it may be. You know, I'm feeling really sad right now. Why am I feeling sad? Like I'm missing something, like, you know? But yeah, like being honest about your emotions and then kind of like allowing them to be there, respecting them instead of, ugh, no emotions. As we do this, it gets so much easier, and it's like, for me, it's delightful now. I still get a little weird at first whenever I'm feeling, especially with anxiety, you know, that one pops up just randomly throughout the day still, and at first it's kind of like, oh, why am I feeling this way again? But then very quickly, because of the practice, I can sit there with it, allow it to be there, and let it guide me to whatever information it's trying to tell me. And safety with yourself. I think that this one, like, it comes from the other three. Like, you're not going to have safety in your body if you cannot trust yourself. If you cannot trust yourself to keep you in situations that are safe. You know, trust yourself to get yourself out of situations that aren't safe. If you're lying to yourself all the time and you end up in an unsafe situation and you lie to yourself about that, then that's how it becomes unsafe. You see, if you're not kind to yourself, then that's not safe. If you're essentially abusing yourself with your thoughts, it's not safe. It's not safe to be in an abusive relationship, you know, especially with yourself. And respect. If you aren't respecting yourself, your emotions, and all of who you are, then yourself doesn't feel safe to be there. It's like, it makes sense, right? So safety is kind of like what happens whenever you start to trust yourself, when you start to respect yourself and be kind to yourself. Your body, it feels safer to be there. Now, there will still be times when your nervous system's like, you know, and you won't feel safe, even though you are safe. Has that ever happened to anybody? It happens to me all the time. I will be sitting like in my backyard with nobody around, and I will just feel like I'm in danger, you know? So learning how to give yourself that safety, which comes from trusting yourself, being kind to yourself, and respecting yourself and your emotions, then it leads to safety. And whenever you have safety, internally, you're safe. Like, you feel more safe anywhere you go. It's similar to belonging. I've been working on this one a lot this week. Belonging in regards to social anxiety, mostly. But, like, if you don't feel like you belong with yourself, like if there are parts of you that don't belong because you're like, get away, then it makes you not belong anywhere. You can be anywhere and you feel like you don't belong, and it's because you don't feel like you belong with yourself. So that's what I define self-love as. It is not getting pedicures and manicures, although that is a byproduct of self-love, because you want to care for yourself. Self-love is how you treat yourself. How do you speak to yourself? How do you respect yourself? Are you lying to yourself? You know, get real. You are going to be with you for your entire life. You're the only one who's going to be with you for your entire life. To me, it is the most important relationship. And it's like, I know for me, like, I did not have any desire to love myself. I was like, I need to but like love all these other people before I love me. But it turns out that I can only love them to the extent that I love me. And that kept showing up too. And that's another major reason why I did go on this little voyage, because I wanted to be able to express and love my kids the way that it feels inside, but it wasn't coming out like that in my behaviors, in my actions. So learning to love myself, it really overflows onto them. And I'm able to hold space for their emotions, respect their emotions, be kind to them, trust them. It's so crazy. When you don't trust yourself, you don't trust anybody else either. And I mean, trusting other people, that's a topic for another day. The trust I'm talking about is like more trust in just like the universe, and that things happen and they're supposed to happen, and trusting in your ability to make it through. So trusting your kids, for example, like I'm not saying that they're never going to do anything wrong and I trust them to be perfect. You know, it's not like that. It's that I trust them to make the decisions that they're supposed to make, even if it's bad. And they're going to get through it. They're going to learn something from it, you know? Trust the process. So, really, when we get down to it, and if you want more on this topic, I learned a lot of what I'm talking about from Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is like a neuroscientist, doctor person, and like his work is incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. There are people that go to his retreats and like were in wheelchairs their whole life, and then they begin walking. There's like blind people that see, deaf people that hear, people who have stage 4 cancer that just goes away. And it's based on his meditations, and he's got such an interesting story, so check him out. But one of the things that he says, and it's documented in science as well, is that and this part I'm not sure of because I think they kind of go back and forth, but thoughts create beliefs that create our actions or behaviors. And I think the thoughts and the beliefs can be, sometimes our beliefs create our thoughts, but all of our beliefs came from thoughts initially that got repeated over and over and over. So if we can create beliefs by thinking something over and over and over again in a negative way, we can also create beliefs by thinking a thought over and over and over again in a positive way. So this is why it's really important. This is where we're starting with our thoughts. And our thoughts are the base of our beliefs. So when you become aware of your thoughts, if your thoughts are, I'm not good enough, I'm a piece of shit, I don't deserve to be here, I don't belong here, you know, these thoughts, and becoming aware of them, becoming aware of the fact that you are not actually your thoughts. These thoughts are in your mind because of beliefs, you know, that you're not worthy, unlovable, not safe. They kind of go hand in hand. But we can like put up that stop sign and say, hey, is this really true? You know, and after you get aware of what's going on, that's the next step, is questioning the story that's going on when these thoughts arise. What is the belief that's behind it? You know, for example, everything I do is fucked up. I can't get anything right? That was a thought that went through my head probably a million times. And just like Is that really true? Has everything I've ever done been fucked up? You know? And once you see that it's not true, and you bring in examples to disprove it, even if you don't have examples to disprove it, if you don't absolutely 100% certain know that it's true, you can just go ahead and, like, who knows? Maybe, what if it's not true? What if every time I've messed up, it's led to something that wouldn't have happened had I not messed up? You know, like, who's to say? What, you know, we put all these, like, certainties on things, and it's just not, it's not good for us. We can be a little more flowy with it and just watch, observe, observing yourself, observing your thoughts. It's so important. I still do this. Like, when the thoughts creep in, one big thing for me used to be whenever I was cooking dinner for my family of 5, and I like had this thought in my head, or this belief, you know, that everybody was gonna like all of the meals that I cooked. And it was like every single night, at least one person was like, I don't like this. And I was like, I cannot get it right. I'm a terrible mother, you know? And it's just like, one day I realized, I'm like, well, I don't want them to feel bad, you know, because they don't like something. You know, one of them likes ketchup, the other one hates it. Like, so that's okay. And it has nothing to do with how good of a mother I am, whether or not they like ketchup, you know? So, but that thought, man, I mean, it was like all the time, I'm just not worthy. I can't get it right. Like, what am I doing wrong? So yeah, then I started listening to them, respecting them, and now we all eat food that we like, and it's not a big deal. I don't take it personal anymore. So yeah, our thoughts create our beliefs. So just there with that example, the thought was, I can't get anything right with dinner. I must be a terrible mother. The belief is, I'm not worthy of, you know, getting everybody happy. Like, that's probably not it. I can't do anything right. Like, everything I do, it's like never good enough. That's the one. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough because they don't like the food I make. Do you see how these are how tricky our thoughts and our beliefs are? Because like all of the negative ones, they're not negative, they're just lies. It's not true. It's not true. And once you can see that over and over and over again, they just start to kind of like fall away. And so with that same example, like, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad mom because I can't make everybody happy with one meal, like, it's just not true. First of all, we could make different meals. Second of all, it doesn't have anything tied to whether or not I'm good enough. Like, and then we can take that and be like, oh, I am making this meal for my family, and like, it doesn't even matter if they like it or not. Like, I still did that, you know? I am great, I'm good, I am good enough, I am enough. And you know, they'll eat. So yeah, that's about what I have today. I wanted to define self-love and kind of explain why it's important. It's so important. It's so important because whenever you're not in a good place, like, that's what you see, you know? Whenever I was really irritated and empty, it's like whenever I looked out into my household or the world, it was irritated and empty. And as I began to declutter these thoughts and beliefs and untangle them, figure out which are lies, get rid of them, replacing them with what's true, like the world just becomes so much more beautiful. And I know for a fact that my kids are like, it's so much better with me now. Like, I'm not unable to be around them when they're angry, when they're sad, when they're, I have my 11-year-old is preteen, so she's probably the hardest one for me, and I'm still working on that. And it's because I am judging these parts of myself. So I'm really excited to meet my inner teen here soon. But like, I can still sit in it, and then I can kind of process it and figure out if I'm feeling off about it, like why, where am I judging myself, what thoughts are happening, what's the belief tied to them, and how is it making me behave. If I get all weird and crazy inside because she's having, a preteen tiffy with her friend, then it's like she feels like she can't talk to me about it, or that there might be something wrong with her, and that's not, I want to be there. And that's the biggest thing. Like, you can actually hold space for other people because you've held that space inside of yourself, and you've detangled these thoughts and these beliefs, and you can see them and be like, hey, is that really true? So it's so important. And I honestly believe that if everybody truly loved themselves, that this whole world would be like a utopia. And that's like my big dream in life. I'm a crazy person. I want to live in a utopia, and I have since like the 3rd grade. So here we go. We're going to try and make it happen. So for today's challenge, I want you guys to get aware of your thoughts. Instead of just going through the day, doing the things, really tap into what's going on in your mind. What are the thoughts like? Are they good, positive, supportive, loving, kind, safe, respectful thoughts? Or not so much? And it's like no shame. There is no shame here. If there is shame, let's bring it up, because I would like to take a sword to it. Becoming aware of your thoughts. How are they? That's the first step. And start practicing that. Anytime you feel like you go onto autopilot and you're just letting your thoughts control, kind of bring it back in, and we're not like judging them. We're not disrespecting them. We are just observing. We're observing ourselves thinking. And this is also, to me, like the beginnings of meditation. So I don't know if you guys meditate yet. And I know for me, it started out and it was so wonky and weird, and I thought I was doing it wrong. It's so helpful. And the whole point is just observing your thoughts. You don't have to agree with them, disagree with them, judge them, criticize them. You're just watching them come and watching them go, and kind of being aware of the content. Okay? So becoming aware of your thoughts, and find a meditation somewhere, a guided one if you want to do that. You can just sit and stare at the sky. I like to stare at the woods. My dad would say, she's just staring at the grass. Like, it's called meditating. It's really just, you know, observing yourself, watching what's happening, becoming aware. Awareness is 90% of the work. Most of us are on autopilot, just letting the thoughts drive. And when that happens, we believe bad things about ourselves if our thoughts are that way, and then our actions are from that. Most of this, the thinking, is subconscious. So the trick, the tool, is bringing it to the consciousness, which is your awareness. So becoming aware, observing yourself move through the day, observing yourself in your mind. What are the thoughts? Thank you guys so much for your time today. Let me know in the comments, scale of 1 to 10. How are your thoughts? 1 is like, I'm a piece of shit, idiot, fuckwad. 10 is, I am a divine angel goddess of love. How does it go for you? Let me know. I'm so excited. Bye.